Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Thriving Minds podcast with your host, Walter Parada, where we strive to provide you with empowering talks so you can live to thrive. I hope you find yourself in the right frame of mind, focusing on all the things within your control. All right, so today's episode, we're going to be talking about working towards breakthroughs. We all have certain levels of resistance that, as we get closer and closer to them, they get harder and heavier that really test us. The initial feeling when that resistance is hit is like, damn, it was much more than what I expected, if we're honest with ourselves. And if we're trying to deny it, the want to avoid it makes it difficult to understand how exactly to overcome other than just with that sheer anger and brute force. These walls that are present really are feats along the way in whatever we decide to pursue. You could have goals that you set out for, and within chasing them, there are going to be many obstacles that come up. This is an opportunity for a breakthrough that is a huge accomplishment on your way to achieving your goals. Sometimes the lure of achieving what you set out for elevates your aspirations and hopes really high that when a certain level of resistance is experienced, it can be deflating. The higher that enthusiasm is, the bigger the drop or letdown can be. This tends to be the initial reaction where the challenges were not anticipated. So while every challenge is not going to be foreseen, it's important to have a certain level of how hard the journey can be in whatever you decide to dedicate yourself. This helps to reset expectations that helps when things do get hard. It's less discouraging and it can be handled well. It just makes you aware that there's going to be negative surprises. And when they do arise, the shock of them is less intense to be able to absorb the experiences that limit self-doubt from running wild. Remember, a certain level of self-doubt is okay because it helps to evaluate where you and things currently stand. And with enough worry and channeling it properly, it gets you to figure out what can you do about it to overcome them. This, combined with optimism, work in unison to effectively navigate the course that you're on, where one side is feeding the belief that you can achieve the goals that you're after, and the other side has enough foresight to be able to handle adversity well, to continue to have and grow that belief within yourself. Each has its specific role that brings out the best in you to take action that produces great results. On their own, not much would get done. Optimism can help you take action, but operating alone can be misguided or even reckless at times that leads to bad outcomes. The foresight of what could go wrong looks at the different things that could be hard that prevents you from making mistakes, but it also can hold you back from ever moving forward out of fear of making the wrong decision. But together, they balance each other out that allows you to take action while at the same time considering the roadblocks along the way and finding alternative routes to take. So within your pursuits related to your aspirations, your goals, and your dreams, before you even get to them, there's going to be breakthroughs along the way. This really opens up the floodgates to a new level of progress that's made. Many of us are aware that in the beginning, it can be slow and tedious to find the rhythm and build momentum because it can be very clunky. It's trying to find your footing, your balance that makes you feel safe and stabilized. This provides that assurance that you can stand on your own and not fall flat on your face. It's just like riding a bike or skating. When you start off, it can feel very unsettling because that unbalanced feeling makes you think, whoa, I'm about to fall. So in the beginning, you're cautious, taking it slow at a pace that you're comfortable with. You're holding on to whatever you can. Then as you find your balance, you move forward to test out if you can stay upright. You might even stop frequently just to see if you have control. And when you do, it gives you relief to go a little more. And then once that rhythm is found, confidence is gained. And you'll turn it up a notch by doing something a little bit more difficult, like maybe turning or going a little bit faster on your bike. From there, things accelerate and makes progress quicker. In this case, the breakthrough is being able to skate or ride your bike forward. The point of resistance is staying balanced. And while we might forget how we learn to skate or ride a bike, a lot of time is spent just on getting on and staying on to know if we can safely do it. And once we can, then things move so much more faster. And this same concept applies to so many of the things that we're striving for to get better at. What happens in the transition stage of breakthroughs when that point of resistance is felt is moving from relief to confidence. To know that you can safely do what you want to, which is the small steps that are taken, maybe even baby steps. So you go from a tense, tight state of almost holding on for dear life that gets you to blink faster, breathe harder, heart is racing, and body is rigid, to then experiencing relief where now you're loose, your body is relaxed, heart rate calms down, and less blinking that helps to slow things down so you actually see things a little bit better. And as confidence grows, heart rate is going to pick up, but everything else tends to be in a relaxed state. Before breakthroughs happen, anxiety is felt. And after it happens, it's excitement that comes on. So while your goals you're trying to achieve are still ongoing, the hurdles that you've overcome are milestones that signifies the amount of progress that has been made. Sometimes this can be more gratifying than reaching the goals themselves because the breakthroughs are those incredible moments where you realize you surpassed what once seemed impossible, undoable, unattainable, or just out of reach that makes you wonder, what else can I do? What more do I want to overcome? Getting to this point is almost like discovering your superpowers, and through the struggle is when they come out. This makes you really work for and earn it. This helps to really be appreciative of what you now have to understand the significance of it that makes you care about it even more. Without the struggle, there's a tendency to take it for granted, simply expecting things will just be handed to you or that you'll just coast through it. So embrace the point of resistance. Use it as a measuring stick of what you're aiming for. And once you get past it, the possibilities are so immense. Think of it like flying to space from Earth. You're fighting gravity to go upwards, and the further up you go, more energy is spent trying to get you higher. It goes through the 5 atmospheric layers, and once past it, the point of resistance has been broken through. You surpass gravity. Then as you look at what you overcame and see what's in front of you, you marvel at what's been accomplished and what is yet to be done. It's a similar idea in the struggles that we face, lifting off from ground zero to push through gravity, the thing that's pushing you down. And when you have that energy and know-how of what to do, you're starting to slightly crack the barrier. And with enough force, that crack gets bigger through the seams extending further and further. That weakens the resistance, and you start gaining more momentum and confidence that gives you that extra push to eventually cause the actual breakthrough. When this becomes your focus, you can eliminate many of the distractions that takes energy away from what needs to be done right now, because right now is more important than the outcome. This means that the goal is no longer top of mind. You understand that it's there, but more focus to do on what's right in front of you, doing all the details well, because without it, the point of resistance will continuously be there. And just trying to drudge through it and expecting you will eventually get past it leads to coming up short that builds frustration, and you're more inclined to just accept, well, you know what, that's the limit. Each time you come up short, evaluate what you're doing well and lean on that to keep up your want to keep working at it. look at what's not working and what you can do to improve upon it, making the necessary changes that leads to that initial pierce of the glass ceiling that you're up against. When you strike and know that you started to crack it, even if it's just enough for air to go through, it's starting to work in your favor. This is the buildup of pressure that is working in your direction because you did what was necessary. And when you can find this little bit of traction, continue to keep it up. Similar to loosening a lid on a jar or undoing a screw, there's a resistance to keep things sealed securely. Sometimes this can wear on your grip that kind of leaves it drained. And when you give it your best and it drains your energy, take a break to gather yourself and evaluate if you want to keep at it or you can regroup and try later. This is important to manage your expectations from being deflated from what you aim and what the results are. If you're feeling good, in the right mental state, being able to channel your energy and focus effectively, then keep going. But if you're mentally drained, then that's a good time to step away to gather yourself. This can make all the difference to sustain your confidence and belief that you can achieve not just what you set out to do, but to maintain and build your optimism. You got to have enough of it to be able to have those breakthroughs because it's the repeated effort that eventually tips the scale your way. We all have peaks and valleys that we go through where we're really productive, full of life, ready to take on the next thing. And other times we're unable to muster the energy and the want to do anything. This goes on at different times in our lives and more importantly throughout our day. Generally, we have a peak in the day where we have the most energy and the valley where we have no more to give. Work on those breakthroughs as you're ramping up towards your peak to give your best effort. And during the valley, that's the time to probably call it a day. Simply put, do hard things when you have the most energy and the less difficult things when you're tired. This seems like common sense, but that want to be tough attitude gets in the way. The common reprimand for being called a quitter or weak when things get tough shames us to ignore our body and mind, to just keep pushing ourselves until there's no more. This is why truck drivers have a certain daily number of hours that they can drive, and they even have a limit on how much they can drive in a week. And it's for safety reasons. It's mandated that after 11 hours of driving, they have to rest for 10 consecutive hours. The body and mind needs rest. And if not, it's literally falling asleep at the wheel that can cause a fatal accident. This same concept should be applied throughout different industries. It should be universal. More hours worked does not simply produce more results. It can at times, but it also can lead to burnout that leads to many mistakes along the way that compounds to create bigger problems. Instead of just working more, it's finding how to work effective, how to best use your energy wisely. This isn't to say that once you get a little tired, stop everything, but just when your focus and energy are really off, that's the time to rest and recover, to do something else less intense. For some people, they can go at it for 12 hours, and for others, maybe only 6 hours of good productive work is what they can really muster. It's just knowing when you're not effective to realize when you need to regroup. So you got to find the right balance that works for you. You got to know yourself, know your tendencies, and really be honest. And just saying, I'm a little tired or I'm tired should not mean that's it. You got to rest and recover. When you do give into that little bit of not wanting to do something simply because you're not at your best, it weakens you. That limits the breakthroughs. And the younger we are, it takes a little bit of time to be aware of ourselves and develop the right work ethic that suits us. Just like anything, when you ascend, it gets a little bit harder because of the altitude that you're getting acclimated to that requires a little bit of testing your boundaries in those stages that you're in. Once you can settle into it, then you can ascend a little bit higher to know that It's going to be heavier the higher up that you go. But getting that exposure allows you to be okay with that discomfort so you can continue to work upwards. What's really going to help you with this is when you can embrace adversity, and the better off you're going to be. So those mistakes and setbacks that you experience are more of an ally because it's preparing you to handle some of the resistance that you're about to face just before those breakthroughs happen. And it's going to range for each and every one of us. Sometimes those breakthroughs can happen relatively quickly, maybe within a few days or weeks. And sometimes they can take kind of a long time, like months or years. Obviously, it's going to give you some comfort when you know that you're making any sort of progress. And other times, it's going to be very frustrating because it seems like you're stuck in place, putting all this effort forward with nothing to show for it. In those frustrating moments, just remind yourself that the effort that was put forth is going to add up at some point. Maybe the approach that you're taking is ineffective and you haven't realized that, but at least with having that committed effort, eventually when you do find ways to make a little bit of progress, then you can channel all that energy into what is working. Just like anything we do, sometimes we take a wrong turn, we've gone down the rabbit hole of certain distractions that makes us realize I wasted a lot of energy. I could have been doing what I set out to do. And when you can at least have that strong work ethic and commitment to what you're pursuing, you give yourself greater and greater chances of making those breakthroughs. And sometimes breakthroughs, while they can be small in certain cases, that doesn't mean that they're insignificant. Treat them as important milestones so you can reference back to see what you've done that helps you gain more confidence and push forward. Just remember the analogy of learning to ride a bike or skate. While years after, even shortly after, you kind of think, oh, how easy that was. But at the time that you were learning it and mastered it, those are significant breakthroughs, even though they may seem small compared to other things that you've done. Those are pivotal points that launched you into what you're doing now. Let's say, for example, you didn't learn how to ride a bike or skate, and you tried, and maybe after a couple of times or however many times, you had enough of it where it just didn't click. Being left at that, it can leave a lingering feeling of not believing in yourself, in not developing your abilities to go after something that you really want. This then can trickle into how much ambition you may have. So while we all have aspirations, dreams, and hopes of what we want to do or accomplish, the lingering effects of not being able to have those small breakthroughs then weighs on you. What you're thinking, saying if I couldn't learn how to ride a bike or skate, what makes me think that I can operate my own business or lead a group of people? Those small things make a difference later on in life in how much optimism you have. If this happens to be the case where not just not learning how to ride a bike or skate or some other thing that you try but came up short, it's a good idea to try to revisit them because maybe at a later stage in your life, the breakthrough will happen. It could be at the time that you were trying for that breakthrough, it might have been a little bit too much to handle those moments. So by giving yourself enough time to really gain that sense of assurance and who you are, that can be enough to really bring out all the great things about you. I find this so fascinating that the younger we are, the environment that we're in, and the people that are around us greatly impact who we become. Naturally, we all have genetic traits that are going to come out, but the environment that we're in also shapes our perspective of the world and of ourselves. Yet this is an almost hush-hush topic because it seems like very little can be done, and it's understandable. Yeah, what if a kid learning to ride a bike was given no lessons or the one teaching them is yelling at them or giving them wrong or irrelevant information? These things have an enormous impact on how well a person does when resistance is experienced. A strong, helpful figure can provide the right guidance when difficulty is experienced that demonstrates what to do and what not to do in those situations. The earlier this can be taught and shown, the better off a person is in making more and more breakthroughs that lead to significant moments in their life that enhance their perspective. But if no guidance or poor guidance is given, then a person gives into their own natural reactions, and that is generally led by anger and sadness that makes them look for something else that's easy. This makes it hard to make any progress, even though they may want to. They just don't know how. Nothing can be done about the past, but knowing this can help you instill certain habits that can help you in the future. Maybe you lack the right guidance or even any sort of guidance, but you can use them as reference points of what you can do. If you had poor guidance and can recognize it and know what you needed back then you can provide that to yourself going forward. So if what someone showed you was flipping out when things go wrong, then knowing how to counter that by maintaining your composure, then you can recognize what habits to incorporate. Yes, it's going to be hard to override that because those moments can lead us scarred. It's understandable. No matter how big or small your breakthroughs are, they are significant moments that's going to propel you forward, where you reach a new level that taps into more of your greatness. This realization then makes you hungry for what more you can do, what you can achieve, looking for what next while still being present in what you're doing now. It's an excited, wide-eyed view of what is yet to come that then feeds your optimism and confidence. Essentially, they build on each other. And the harder the struggle is in making the breakthrough, use it to remind yourself of what it took to get past it. The pain and frustration felt can drive a higher sense of gratitude and a sense of humbleness. Use it as an ally and not as something that needs to be avoided. The breakthroughs are those pivotal points where things can go in different directions based on how well you handle them. The better that you can handle the resistance that is felt, the better chance you have of breaking past it. Sometimes the resistance is physical, where you just need a little bit of time to develop, grow, and refine yourself that builds strength. Sometimes it can be mental, where needing to understand the concept to be able to strike accurately. Or it can be both in many cases, which makes it harder and more complex. No matter what, aim to break things down in parts and to give yourself a better chance to process things. You're not just who you are as is, but you're becoming. And when you consistently are working towards those breakthroughs, you'll achieve so many spectacular things, where the goals become merely the byproduct of the process, and the excitement comes from when you reach those new levels. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're interested in more topics like this, become a Thriving Minds member at www.thrivingminds.live. It's your personal development resource so you can build that right mindset so you can live to thrive. All right, until next time.